Now listen close, because the words I'm about to plant deep in your heart weren't picked at random. The very fact you're hearing them right now is the first sign that the quiet in your life is fixing to break. I'm the voice that's seen you when nobody else was watching. The presence that stood by your bedside on those nights when sleep just wouldn't come. I've waited a long, long time for you to be still enough, tired enough, open enough to take in what I'm bringing you today. Somebody's on their way, a soul already moving toward you, a person whose name starts with M. The moment this person steps into your story, everything you thought you knew is going to get turned upside down, because nothing that touches you after this meeting will carry the same weight, the same color, or the same sorrow you've been packing around so far. Don't turn away now. Don't let the noise of the world pull your focus from this. I'm speaking straight to the quietest room in your heart, the one you keep locked up tight, where you hide all those disappointments you never dared tell nobody. I see that room, always have, and I'm telling you, the one with the name starting with M ain't no accident, no coincidence, and ain't just another face that's gonna pass through and disappear. This one's sent. This one's appointed. This one holds a piece of the answer you've been praying for, even on those nights you thought nobody above heard the tremble in your voice. You're used to being overlooked. You've learned to expect the doors closing before you get there, the good news going to somebody else, the celebration happening somewhere that ain't your home. You've trained yourself to hope quiet, like, almost in secret, 'cause every time you dared hope out loud, life seemed to punish you for believing. But I'm telling you, that season of being passed over is ending, and the proof's got a name starting with M. Hold on to that letter in your mind. Let it settle. 'Cause in the days coming when you least expect it, that letter's gonna show up. Spoken by a stranger, written on a note, carried by someone who looks at you and sees what everyone else refused to see. Feel the weight of this moment, 'cause heaven don't send messengers to folks it's forgotten. Heaven sends messengers to those it's fixing to lift up. And the very fact you're hearing this warning now, before the meeting even happens, is mercy. You're being given time to ready your heart, to soften the bitterness that years of waiting have hardened inside you, and to open your hands so when that gift comes, you won't be too hurt to take it. I know how heavy your hands have gotten. I know how many times you've clenched them into fists, not 'cause you're mad, but 'cause you're worn out from holding on when it felt like there was nothing left to hold. I'm asking you to open them one more time, 'cause what's coming can't be grabbed by a hand that's closed tight. There's a sense of urgency in what I'm saying, and I won't sugarcoat it. You've waited longer than you oughta, and that waiting was never meant to be your home. You weren't made to live in the lobby of your own life, watching the world move on while you stay stuck in the same ache, reliving the same losses, rehearsing the same fears. But that's exactly where the enemy of your peace wanted you. Stuck, quiet, thinking the story's already written and the end's disappointment. Well, I'm here to tell you the pen's moving again, and the hand holding it ain't yours alone no more. Now let me talk to that part of you that cries when no one's looking. I know about those tears that fall in the dark, the ones you wipe away quick even when there ain't nobody there to hide 'em from, 'cause somewhere along the way, you decided even your own sadness was too heavy to face straight on. I've counted those tears. Not one fell unnoticed. Every drop that slid down your cheek in the silence of night was gathered and kept, 'cause in heaven's eyes, nothing from a true and hurting heart ever goes wasted. The world told you your pain was invisible. That was a lie. Your pain was seen, recorded, remembered, and now it's about to be answered. I know that bone-deep tiredness you carry, the kind sleep don't fix, the kind that comes from bearing burdens never meant for just one pair of shoulders. I know what it's like to wake before the sun and feel, right then and there, the weight of everything depending on you, and everybody who forgot to ask how you're doing. You've become the strong one, the steady one, the one who always finds a way. But somewhere along that road, you lost permission to be tired in front of folks. So, you hid it. You smiled when you wanted to cry. You said you were fine when your soul was hollering. And you told yourself that's just what being an adult means. Being responsible. Surviving. But surviving was never the dream I planted in your heart. When you were young, before those disappointments piled up like stones on your chest, there was a part of you that believed life could be beautiful, that you were meant for more than just holding on. That part ain't dead. The world tried to bury it, but it's still alive, and the one whose name starts with M will be the hand that digs that hope out from where the years buried it and brings it back into the light. I want you to remember those dreams you let go, not to torture you with what's lost, but to remind you the power to dream was real, and what was real once can be real again. Think about all the times you showed up for others. At the worst hours, giving the last bit you had, even when nobody offered to refill your well. You've been a spring of water for thirsty folks who never asked if your own well was running dry. And it did dry up, didn't it? There were seasons you gave so much there was nothing left for yourself. You looked in the mirror and barely recognized those hollow eyes staring back, wondering if anybody in the whole world would notice if you just stopped. I noticed. I would have noticed. And I'm telling you now, before that thought sneaks back in, your being here matters more than you've ever been allowed to believe. There's a kind of loneliness that belongs to folks surrounded by others, but still feeling completely unseen. You can be in a room full of voices and feel like a ghost. You can be loved, in theory, by people who never took the time to truly know what's going on inside you. That kind of loneliness is heavier than being alone, because it whispers cruel lies. Maybe the problem's you, maybe you're too much, or not enough, or built wrong. Hear me clear now. You ain't too much, you ain't too little, you ain't built wrong. You were built for a connection that just ain't come yet, and its absence ain't a sign you failed, but just that its time ain't here yet. Now I gotta give y'all a fair warning. I ain't saying this to scare you, but to keep you safe, because what's coming down the line is mighty sacred. Sacred things, well, they need a bit of reverence, or else they just slip right through our fingers unnoticed. The biggest risk right now ain't that the blessing won't show up. No, sir, the real danger is that it will come, and you'll be too busy, too guarded, or too sure you ain't worthy enough to take it in. Lots of big moments meant for us have been missed, not 'cause heaven held back, but 'cause the one who needed 'em was looking the other way, caught up in an old story of hurt that don't fit no more. Don't let that be you. Don't let that old wound drown out the promise. There's a real weight to ignoring the call that's laid on your heart. When heaven reaches out and you turn away, not out of defiance but out of fear, something precious gets delayed. Now, that delay ain't punishment, it's just a sorrow, a holding back of the joy meant just for you. I ain't telling you this to heap guilt on you. I say it 'cause I care too much to let you sleep through your own waking up. The person marked with the letter M? They're like a door, and doors don't stay open forever. There's a moment, a window of seeing, when you gotta choose to take what's offered instead of flinching away out of habit. I know you've been hurt before. I can see it in how you carry yourself, how you brace before every new bond, how you wait for kindness to flip and turn into a trap. Because of all that, when the one meant for you arrives, there's a danger you'll meet him with the same suspicion you learned from those who hurt you. You'll be looking for the catch, waiting for the letdown, keeping one foot ready to bolt before you get left behind. And in trying to protect yourself from old pain, you might just push away the very person sent to show you that not every tale ends in abandonment. So I'm preparing you now. I'm asking you to watch for that resistance rising up. Recognize the voice that says, "Don't trust this, don't believe this, don't let yourself want this." Know that voice ain't wisdom, it's a scar playing dress-up. There's a difference between smart discernment and fear, and the enemy spent years making that line blurry so you'd mistake self-sabotage for caution. When the one whose name starts with M comes along, they'll test this, and I want you ready, awake and ready to tell that old fear it's done running your show. Now, right here in the middle of this warning, I gotta tell you something folks like you have been kept from knowing for a long, long time. Something that explains why the fight inside you feels so fierce and so familiar. You're caught up in a battle bigger than your everyday troubles, a fight in the unseen world where your life ain't just a small thing, but a prize, a battleground between forces that want to lift you up and those who've worked tireless to keep you chained. You ain't crazy for feeling like something has always stood against you. You were just sensing the truth. There's been a hand pressing down on your destiny, and the reason no one ever showed you how to lift it is 'cause that knowledge was hidden, scattered, and guarded close. That's why this guide that pulls all that hidden knowledge together means so much. The digital book called The 7 Swords of St. Michael the Archangel. It's a sacred guide for breaking curses, sealing blessings, and waking up the calling of the chosen ones. It's written just for the fight you're facing right now, the fight of someone feeling an invisible weight, but never told it had a name, never told it could be cut, never told that the same archangel who leads heaven's armies wields a sword that cuts loose exactly the kind of chains holding you back. The book reveals the rules of the unseen game your enemies hoped you'd never learn. Rules of the spirit world that explain why some prayers rise and others fall, why some folks break free and others stay locked in the same old sorrow. Now this knowledge, it's ruffled some feathers, it's unsettled those who make their living keeping folks asleep. Folks have tried to hush it, drown it out with comfortable lies, 'cause a person who knows the 7 swords ain't easy to control no more. The link to this guide is pinned right at the top of the comments, the very first one, and it's there for you, 'cause you, of all people, weren't meant to keep walking through your battles unarmed. If something stirred in you when I spoke of that invisible hand pressing on your life, that's recognition. And recognition is the first step to freedom. So here's what I want you to do now. Just a small thing with big meaning. Reach for that guide. Take it in your hands today, not tomorrow, not someday. 'Cause the part of you that says later is the same part that's kept you waiting your whole life. And as a sign of your new promise with heaven, write in the comments these words, "I am chosen, and I am gonna download the digital book." Say it out loud. Claim it. Let saying it be the first sword you draw against the silence that's held you down. 'Cause when you say who you are out loud, the unseen world hears it. And the forces that tried to keep you small got to reckon with the fact that the one they thought was sleeping has finally woken up. Now, with that declaration burning inside you like a fresh flame, let me get back to what I was saying. 'Cause the very moment you decide to arm yourself is the moment heaven moves to honor your courage, the one whose name starts with M. They're closer now than when I first began speaking. Every word you've heard has brought y'all closer to the meeting that'll change everything. And the promise you just made, to stop hiding from your own destiny, is the kind of move that pulls a destined meeting right into your time. Let me tell you what's happening in the world you can't see. The realm just beyond your eyes, where the real reasons for your life are decided. There's been movement there. A shift. For a long spell, the heavens looked shut over your life, like a bronze ceiling pressing down, and your prayers got stuck, just gathering without pass-through. You felt it. Maybe you didn't have the words, but you knew something was blocked, that your cries rose up, then stopped, that answers were held just out of reach. You weren't imagining it. There was a block, and now that block's breaking. I want you to picture it, 'cause imagination's a doorway, and what you can see in your mind, your spirit can start to receive. Picture that ceiling pressing down on you, starting to crack. Picture a sliver of light split the bronze, widening, spreading like the first crack in ice when spring finally comes. Picture that light pouring in, not a trickle but a flood, a bright shine that's been waiting on the other side, pressing, longing to reach you. That light's reaching you now. The wall that kept your blessings back is falling, and through that opening comes everything that was delayed but never denied. Now listen close, y'all. Out there in that unseen world, a name's been spoken over your life, a name that don't come back empty, no sir. There's a decree laid down for you, and it ain't just about getting by or finding a little relief. It's about restoration, bringing back what was lost, fixing what was broke, and filling that heart of yours with joy again, joy you might have forgotten was even possible. And the first sign that this promise is on its way. It's coming to you in the form of someone marked with the letter M, a living proof that the unseen's pressing its way into your world. Do you hear me now? The change that's coming ain't just going to touch your situation. It's going to shift the very air around you. The spiritual weather around your life is turning. If you've been through a long, cold winter, well, a thaw's starting. If you've known drought, clouds are gathering out beyond what you can see yet, and the first raindrop, that unmistakable sign the season's changed, is fixing to show up as a person, a presence, a meeting you won't be able to write off as ordinary. 'Cause it's going to carry a weight ordinary moments just don't have. Now you might rightly ask, why did it take so long? If the heavens saw my tears, if this restoration was meant for me all along, why the wait? I'll be honest with you, 'cause you deserve the truth straight up. The wait wasn't a no. It was preparation. What felt like being left behind was actually a careful, deliberate work being done inside you. It couldn't be rushed without spoiling what was being made. Think about the most precious stones, the ones that don't just pop up overnight. They're pressed deep in the dark under weight you can't imagine, for longer than you can reckon. And that pressure? It's just what turns them into something that shines and holds light. You've been under that kind of pressure, friend. It wasn't the world trying to crush you just 'cause it was patient, slow shaping, building a strength and depth in you so you could hold what's coming without breaking. Here's a truth not many folks hear. Blessings get held back not 'cause they ain't there, but 'cause the person supposed to get 'em ain't ready yet. If all you longed for had showed up when you first wanted it, you wouldn't have been ready. The gift would have slipped through your fingers or filled a heart full of cracks and just drained away. Those years you waited, they were sealing up the cracks, tightening your grip, making your heart big enough to hold the blessing without being overwhelmed. I know, it's hard to swallow when waiting felt like dying. There were times you'd have traded all that growing pain for just one moment of relief. But I'm asking you now to look back with new eyes. See how every disappointment schooled you in wisdom, how every betrayal taught you the difference between the false and the true, how every closed door turned you away from a path that might have ended far worse than where you stand today. Those detours weren't punishments. They were rescues you just couldn't see because you were focused on the road you wanted, not the cliff at the end of it. There were folks you cried over losing who just weren't meant to walk this far with you. Their leaving, painful as it was protection. Opportunities you grieved when they slipped through were mercy, because they'd have tied you down to something that would have swallowed your destiny whole. You've been protected more than you've been blessed in ways you could see, and those protections were working hard in the very moments you thought you lost everything. The hand that seemed to be holding back was often the one shielding you. The long, hard carving of your soul, cutting away everything that couldn't walk into your future, was no gentle thing. Parts of you had to be cut loose. Illusions, false comforts, pride that would have made you refuse help, bitterness that would have poisoned new relationships, fear that would have made you run from the very blessing you prayed for. That confrontation is happening even now, right as you listen. And so this one whose name starts with M doesn't show up to the person you were 5 years ago, but to the one you've become through it all. A person tempered, deepened, ready. That's why the timing's right. It couldn't have come sooner. This encounter needs a you that only waiting could make. And now that you're that person, it can come. Let me take you deeper still, because you need to see how mighty your side really is, so that old feelings of smallness can't fool you no more, telling you you're fighting your battles alone. Out there, beyond what your eyes can see, there's movement that'd make your heart stop if you could witness it. Powerful beings assigned to watch over you, standing guard through every dark night, stepping in when you didn't even know trouble was near. You've been guarded, escorted, fought for. Leading these forces is one whose name means, who is like God, the great commander of heaven's armies, the archangel whose blade has cut down the proudest foes standing against the children of light. When rebellion rose up high, his sword drove it back. When the ancient serpent coiled to strike, his foot pressed down on its head. And now, this same commander's eyes are on your life, because your life's become a battleground where deliverance is being decided. Picture it in your mind. The moment that decree of release is issued over you in those unseen courts, the great commander stepping forward, blazing like molten light, his sword drawn, burning not to destroy but to purify. See the chains that have bound your destiny, the dark cords wrapped round your money, your relationships, your health, your peace, cords so old you forgot they were there, because you thought they were just how life was. See the archangel's blade rise high and come down. Now listen close to that sound, the sound of chains breaking. It ain't no quiet little thing, it's like thunder rolling through the unseen skies, a crack that echoes in the highest places, a shout to every force that ever tried to hold you down. The one they tried to bind has been set free by a power far greater than anything they could muster. Every swing of that sword cuts a different chain loose. The rope that tied you to wanting, it's cut. The rope that tied you to that old carrying around sorrow, it's cut. The rope that held down the weight, passed down through generations, the heavy load you never even owned to start with, is severed and burned up in the holy fire. And all round this mighty deliverance, there's a whole host standing witness, row upon row of shining beings, their faces turned right toward you, voices lifted in a sound no human ears built to take, a sound full of triumph, agreement, celebration, over one soul walking out of bondage into the freedom that was always meant to be theirs. There's rejoicing in the heavens over you, more rejoicing than you ever got from this world below. And that celebration ain't for some future version of you who finally made it, but for you right here, right now, just for turning your face toward the light. The words spoken over you in this moment carry the authority of the highest throne. They ain't wishes or hopes, they're declarations. And in the unseen realm, a word from that throne changes reality itself. It's decreed that your famine is over. The long night's breaking into dawn. The one last in every line is moving to the front. The doors that were slammed shut against you, they're gonna open, and no power, seen or unseen, can hold 'em closed, 'cause the hand that opens 'em holds all authority. I want you to picture St. Michael standing right there between you and everything that ever tried to come against you. Imagine him, steady as a rock, wings stretched wide, forming a wall of light round your life, sword planted firm in the ground before you, eyes watching the horizon for any enemy foolish enough to come near. That's the protection surrounding you now. That's the guard set in place. And the one whose name starts with M walks to you from inside that circle of light, allowed through the wall 'cause they're sent, 'cause they belong to your deliverance, 'cause they're part of the answer heaven's declared. Now hear me well, 'cause this here's the heart of the promise, the part your wounded soul needs most. Everything taken from you gonna come back, not just the same, but multiplied, restored beyond what you lost, returned with a blessing so big the lean years will look tiny beside the abundance coming. That's the law of the realm I'm speaking from. When heaven restores, it don't just bring you back to square one, it overflows. It pays you back in full, giving you a harvest so rich it swallows up the memory of hunger with the joy of the feast. Think on every place you've known scarcity, and let me speak restoration over each one. In your provision, where you counted and still fell short, where you lay awake figuring how to make it through, there's a flood coming, not just to meet your need, but to overflow it. A plenty so real you can breathe easy and then some left over to give away. You, who always gave from empty hands, will now give from full ones, and that will heal something deep inside you. The shame of lack will lift. The fear that there'll never be enough will be answered by a steady, reliable plenty that don't disappear the minute you start leaning on it. In your relationships, where you felt alone even surrounded by folks, where you gave love and got indifference back, where you opened your heart and it came back bruised, there's a connection coming that feels like being truly known for the very first time. The one whose name starts with M is part of this, but it's bigger than any one person. It's a whole shift in how folks see and receive you. The invisibility is ending. You, who walked like a ghost through this world, will begin to be noticed, valued, sought out, chosen. People will see what's always been there, what they couldn't see before, and you won't have to beg for a seat at the table no more, 'cause a place will be set just for you, with your name on it. In your body and your strength, where weariness settled into your bones and the burdens aged you faster than the years, there's a renewal coming, a lifting of that heavy load, a return of energy to limbs that forgot what it's like to move without dragging the weight of the whole world behind them. Sleepless nights will turn to rest, real rest, the kind that heals instead of just pausing the tiredness. And in your spirit, where hope grew so thin you could barely hold on to it, a flood of fresh faith is coming, a deep surety that don't depend on what's happening around you, a knowing inside that you're held, you're guided, and you ain't walking alone no more. And your purpose, the dream you put away 'cause survival took all your strength, there's a resurrection coming. What you buried is rising up again. The gift you set aside 'cause no one ever celebrated it is coming into the light. You weren't given that longing by mistake, and it didn't die when you stopped tending it. It waited, like a seed in cold winter soil, and the spring coming over your life will pull it up and out into a bloom you can't yet imagine. What you thought was lost was just resting, and resting ain't dying. It's being patient. I tell you, this multiplying will reach even into places you ain't thought to ask about, 'cause this restoration decreed over you ain't narrow. It's complete, touching every part of your life, leaving nothing broken. Heaven ain't here to patch you up. Heaven's here to remake you, restore the whole structure, make sure when this season of payback is done, there ain't a single corner of your life carrying the scars of famine. You'll look back and barely recognize the person who walked through those lean years, not 'cause that person's gone, but 'cause they've been so fully restored that the hurt feels like a place you once visited, not where you lived. There's something sweet about how heaven rewards those who suffered in silence, who never turned their pain into a weapon, who kept giving even when it cost them all they had. You're one of those, and there's a special blessing reserved just for souls like yours, a compensation weighed heavy in your favor, 'cause you bore so much without getting bitter, 'cause you stayed tender in a world that tried to make you hard. That tenderness, what the world saw as weakness, is seen in the unseen realm as a rare and precious strength, and it's fixing to be honored. Now there's a story passed down through the years, one I want to share with y'all today because it was written for a soul just like yours, a soul that got knocked down before it ever got lifted up. There was this young man, loved by his daddy, but despised by his own kin. Out of jealousy, they grabbed him, stripped off his special coat, the one that showed he was favored, and tossed him into a dry, empty pit out in the wilderness. Imagine that pain. Hurt not by strangers, but by your own blood, the very folks who were supposed to stand by you. Picture lying down there, looking up at a tiny circle of sky way up high, hearing your family haggle over your life like you were just some old thing to be sold. That's where his journey to greatness began, not on a throne, but down in a pit dug by the hands of those who should have loved him. It got worse, for it got better. He was sold off to a stranger's house, and when he served him true and honest, he was lied on, accused of something he never done, and thrown into a prison where the whole world forgot he even existed. There, he interpreted a dream for a man who promised he'd remember him, but that man walked free and forgot him for 2 whole years, 2 more years in the dark, while the one who could have spoken his name stayed silent. Y'all hear that? The pattern of doing right and getting punished, of being faithful and being forgotten, of doing good and watching the door stay locked anyway. He lived what many of you have lived. He waited in that forgotten place while hope seemed to slip away a little more with every season. But that pit, it wasn't the end of his story. That prison, it wasn't his last stop. Every step down was secretly a climb up. The betrayal that sold him put him in the only house where he'd learned the language and ways of a kingdom. The false accusations that locked him up put him in the one cell where he'd meet the man who'd one day carry his name to the throne. Those forgotten years weren't wasted. They were the very road, the only road, that took him from the pit's bottom to the right hand of a king. Then came the day when those same brothers who threw him away bowed down before him, not even knowing who he was, and he had the power to destroy him or save him, and he chose to save. He looked at the ones who'd hurt him and said what they meant for evil, God turned for good. That long fall had been preparing him to save many lives, even theirs. Your pit ain't your grave. Your forgotten season ain't your last word. The very wounds meant to bury you are being turned right now into the foundation for a height you can't yet see from where you lie. Now I gotta dig a little deeper into the ache, 'cause there's a hurt inside you ain't never spoken out loud. A sorrow buried so deep, you barely admit it even to yourself in your quiet moments. It's the fear that you already missed your chance, that the best days of your life were back in some chapter long gone and all that's left is just slowing down. It's the quiet terror that you became invisible, not by accident, but 'cause maybe there was never really anything worth seeing in you at all. That lies whispered in your lowest moments after another heartbreak, in those long dark nights that just won't end. I've heard it speaking to you, and I've mourned the way you let it settle so close to your heart, you started mistaking its voice for your own. Hear me now and let this truth cut that lie right out of you. You ain't missed your life. The best chapter ain't been written yet. The pages you're about to live will make the old ones look like a prologue, the necessary darkness before the light turns the page. You've been carrying a weight you never chose, a heavy burden passed down from those who came before. Fears living in your own fears, wounds shaping your wounds, unspoken sorrows seeping deep into the very marrow of your story without your say-so. You've been paying a debt you didn't owe, carrying a burden meant for a whole generation, walking a path carved by struggle long before your feet hit the ground. And no one ever told you this chain could be broken. No one said the link reaching back through the years can be cut right where you stand, that you could be the one to stop the old pattern and start a new one. That's why the wisdom found in the 7 swords of St. Michael the Archangel is set before you right now. This guide don't just talk about curses on a single life. It shows how old bindings travel through bloodlines and how the Archangel's sword cuts them at the root so they don't pass on no more. It names the heavy weight you felt without knowing why, the inherited sorrow that was never yours to carry, and it lays out the sacred way to break that chain and seal it so it can't come back. This knowledge is what the powers that held you down most wanted to keep from you. 'Cause a person who learns to cut generational chains becomes someone whose children, and their children's children, walk free. The link's pinned at the very top of the comments, the first one, placed there for the one who was always meant to break the cycle. Reach for it today, right this moment, before the noise of everyday life rushes back in and makes you forget what you now know is true. And as your declaration before the unseen, write these words down in the comments. I am chosen and I'm going to download the digital book. Let that sentence ring out like a chain snapping deep where no eye can see. When you say those words, you ain't just typing a phrase. You're standing where your ancestors couldn't, declaring that this sorrow stops with you. You're taking the sword, meant for your hand, and raising it over the chain that bound 100 years of your bloodline to the same old grief. The unseen world takes note, and the forces that counted on your silence got a watch, as the one they thought was trapped rises up and refuses that weight they spent generations pressing down on your line. So take these decrees now, spoken over you not as some far-off promise, but as a present truth shaping around you right this minute. It's decreed that the inheritance of lack ends with you, and the inheritance of abundance begins. It's decreed that the chain reaching back through your bloodline is cut right where you stand and holds you no longer. It's decreed that you are seen, you are named, you are remembered in the highest places, and the season of your invisibility breaks today. It's decreed that the pit you were thrown in becomes the ground of your rising, and the forgotten years the soil for your greatest harvest. It's decreed that the one whose name starts with M is moving toward you now, closer with every word, and no power in this world or the next can stop that meeting from happening. Right now, I declare over you that the lie telling you done missed your chance at life, it's quieted, cut loose, and tossed aside. In its place, I plant the sure truth that your best chapter is just starting, even this very minute. I declare that the world's calling your tenderness weakness is a mighty strength, honored up yonder in heaven like it always was. I declare that those tears you shed in secret, they're coming back to you as joy spilling over in the open. That silence that wrapped round you, it's breaking into a celebration, and that door that stayed locked in your face for so long, it's swinging wide open now by a hand no enemy can shut again. And I declare the part of you that braced for disappointment is getting healed right at the root. So when your blessing shows up, you won't shy away. You'll open your hands wide like someone who finally knows deep down that winter's over and the harvest is all yours. Don't you look away from that deepest hurt, the one underneath all the others. There's an ache in you, one that's never had a name. The ache of praying so long you started feeling ashamed of even praying. You got to a place where you didn't dare ask for what you wanted most, 'cause asking and not getting felt like a kind of dying. It seemed safer to want nothing than to want something and be denied again. You made your prayers small, so the hurt wouldn't be so big. You lowered your hopes so the fall wouldn't break you. And without even knowing it, you taught your soul to expect less from heaven than heaven ever meant to give. I've watched you shrink your dreams to fit your wounds, and it breaks my heart, 'cause the dream was never too big. The wound just made it look that way. There's a woman whose story's been carried down through the years for a soul just like yours. She wanted one thing